Hello and good evening. Welcome to World Today, which is your window to the world. Over the next 1 hour, we'll bring you up to speed with all that is happening around the globe on different fronts. Because US President Joe Biden is hosting a democracy summit. Germany's got a new chancellor. There are fresh concerns over surges in the West as far as the latest COVID numbers go, the daily cases, and the WHO saying accelerate your vaccination drive. So lots packed for you in this show, but first, as always, our headlines. US President Joe Biden set to host world leaders and civil society members from over 100 countries virtually in the Summit for Democracy starting this evening over 2 days. Leaders are expected to make commitments, announce reforms and initiatives to improve democracy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be part of the plenary session. Olaf Scholz replaces Angela Merkel. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates the new German federal chancellor, says he looks forward to working closely to further strengthen the strategic partnership between India and Germany. WHO urges speeding up vaccinations as several Western nations see fresh surges in COVID numbers. Omicron forces UK to reassess measures. PM Boris Johnson brings in tougher restrictions. Pfizer and BioNTech claim booster shot of their vaccine can give effective protection against the latest variant. Canada joins UK, US and Australia's diplomatic boycott of Beijing Winter Olympics. UK PM Boris Johnson also tells Parliament that Britain will be effectively boycotting the global 2022 sports event. IOC's Thomas Bach says Olympics is about athletes, not politics. BCCI announces India's test squad for upcoming tour of South Africa. Meanwhile, Rohit Sharma replaces Virat Kohli as India's ODI captain to take over from South Africa's series starting next month. And Barcelona sign off on the worst Champions League campaign in 2 decades. Exit at the group stage after defeat at the hands of Bayern Munich. Champions League holders Chelsea blow the chance to top their group after a 3-3 draw against Zenit St. Petersburg. And let's now begin with the big news of the moment. Well, the Angela Merkel era in Germany is over. President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has officially appointed Olaf Scholz as the new German federal chancellor. Scholz promises continuity with change, saying he'll make the country greener and fairer along with never-before traffic light coalition. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated the new German leader, saying he looks forward to working with him.
Im Namen der Bundesrepublik Deutschland.
In the name of the Republic of Germany, I appoint Olaf Scholz as German Chancellor. Mr. Chancellor, congratulations.
Für die Bundesrepublik Deutschland.
With this, an era came to an end in Germany and a new chapter began in Europe's largest democracy. Olaf Scholz has been sworn in as Germany's next Chancellor by Parliament. On Wednesday, he formally took power after Angela Merkel's historic 16 years as leader. Scholz, 63, who served as Vice Chancellor and Finance Minister in coalition with Merkel, got a clear majority of 395 votes from lawmakers in the Bundestag, lower house of Parliament. Wednesday's ceremony in the Bundestag ended 16 years of conservative rule under Merkel and paved the way for a pro-European coalition government that has promised to boost green investment.
Mr. Olaf Scholz has achieved the necessary majority of at least 369 votes. Based on Article 63, Paragraph 2 of the German Constitution, he is elected Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany.
Gewählt.
Scholz, wearing a black face mask, waved as he received a standing ovation from lawmakers and was given bouquets of flowers from leaders of parliamentary groups. Sticking to democratic procedures enshrined in Germany's constitution, Scholz was formally nominated by President Frank-Walter Steinmeier in the nearby Bellevue Palace before returning to Parliament to take oath of office in front of lawmakers.
Herzlichen Glückwunsch.
Congratulations, esteemed Mr. Chancellor, dear Olaf Scholz. I know from personal experience that it is a moving moment to be elected to this post. You might have guessed that it's an exciting and also fulfilling job, a demanding one too. But when you take it on with joy, it's maybe also one of the most beautiful jobs that exist, to take on the responsibility for this country. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you the best of luck in this position and always a lucky hand for our country.
Und immer eine glückliche Hand.
Scholz is an experienced negotiator and veteran politician who, as Social Democratic Party General Secretary from 2002 to 2004, defended controversial labour market reforms and social welfare cuts under the former Chancellor Gerhard Schröder. As Labour Minister from 2007 to 2009 in Merkel's first ruling coalition, Scholz pushed for a generous short-time work scheme that helped protect millions of workers from the fallout of the global financial crisis. After being mayor of Hamburg from 2011 to 2018, Scholz returned to Berlin as Merkel's finance minister, a role in which he got rid of the goal of balanced budgets and enabled record new borrowing to shield companies and employees from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. On the European level, he worked closely with France and persuaded Merkel to support a debt-financed European Recovery Fund worth 800 billion euros or $900 billion to help EU member states hit hardest by COVID-19. World Today Desk, DD India.
Well, Olaf Scholz became Germany's next chancellor after 16 years with Angela Merkel at the helm as a new centre-left-led coalition took the wheel of Europe's top economy. Olaf Scholz, who won 395 of the 707 votes cast in the Bundestag lower house, has pledged broad continuity with the popular Merkel while making Germany greener and fairer. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Olaf Scholz on being elected as the Federal Chancellor of Germany. The Prime Minister has tweeted, and I quote him, "My heartiest congratulations to Olaf Scholz on being elected as the Federal Chancellor of Germany. I look forward to working closely to further strengthen the strategic partnership between India and Germany." So what does this change mean for Germany and, of course, even for the rest of the world? After all, Germany is the most powerful economy in the European Union. We have Gurjeet Singh, former Indian ambassador to Germany, to ask about it all. Good evening to you, Gurjeet Singh. Just tell us, in terms of this change, there is a lot of talk of continuity and change, and there's a talk of the Merkel variant as well. But he would be a different individual because he has a different sort of a coalition altogether from Angela Merkel, won't he?
Indeed. Actually, in Germany, everything is always the same. Nothing really changes. But, and you know that though you said that it is the end of the Merkel period, all the three contenders to succeed Merkel all try to prove how Merkelian they were. Yes. And I think new Chancellor Scholz was perhaps the most Merkelian because he was part of her cabinet and the Vice Chancellor. So I don't show certain that the Merkel era is over. It's just going to be there in different ways. The priorities for the new government, I think, have been carefully worked out because the coalition agreement that took long was without rancor, at least no public rancor, and the traffic light has gone green. What we will see now is continuity in policy, but certainly a lot of changes in nuance are there because both the FDP and the Greens want to make their mark, even though they are both junior partners in the coalition. That is where you may see change, though the SPD will be the dominant party of continuity. So there, I think, are the nuances. The second thing I would like to point out is that there is a new generation of politicians who has now come into the Bundestag and into the cabinet. It's a balanced cabinet of equal women and equal men. Most of them are very young. Yes. Very few have been in cabinet before.
Including the Greens foreign minister.
A youthful government.
And if you talk about how things are shaping up for the moment, the latest challenges for Olaf Scholz, what do you see them to be? Because there are big challenges on the COVID front at home. And if you talk about his first foreign engagements, it will be about what's been happening between Russia and Ukraine as well, where his response will be critical.
So I think the biggest challenges right now for the government is COVID handling. because Germany is facing a new pandemic wave, and the second is how to drive the economy and give it new direction, which is both digital and modern, rather than the archaic economy Germany ran. But yes, when it comes to engagement, I think the very first engagement for Chancellor Scholz will be the Democracy Summit hosted by President Biden of the USA. And Foreign Minister Baerbock, the first lady foreign minister in Germany, I think will already be flying off to Paris, Brussels, and Warsaw. In Brussels, she will meet the EU and NATO. So I think the priorities of the new government are clear. COVID, economy, Europe. In Europe, the problem of Russia, and then the transatlantic relationship with the United States. Russia also means dealing with the energy crisis or possible energy crisis, because a lot of German energy supplies come from Russia.
Yes, certainly, and the response, it has been indicated, might be different from what the Merkel era has seen, because she was seen to be more business friendly. But here, especially with the kind of foreign minister that Mr. Scholz has, things might be a little different, and that pipeline which is being built to Germany, that could be a target if sanctions come in where Russia is concerned.
Yes, Chancellor Merkel was always very keen not to rile Russia or China too much, and that is where she differed with the smaller European countries and often the United States. She could play the bridge very often, and I think even now, when she was like a caretaker chancellor, she did step in to try and diffuse the problem that Poland was having on its borders with Belarus. But I think you're right, the new of the Greens, who have got two very important ministries, the Foreign Ministry and the Ministry of Economy and Climate Issues.
Yes.
And actually become like a spearhead to, poke partners who don't fall into line with German green values. And there is where, again, I wait to see how balloons are pricked or the gas goes up. Let's wait and watch. But I think the sagacity of Merkel is something that Germans will miss.
Okay, and on both these fronts, they could hold a lot of meaning for India as well, because India is also seeking certain things and the world to be thinking in a certain way, and perhaps that will be helped with the kind of situation there is now in Germany, with the kind of government that is now taking shape in Germany.
The advantage is that Chancellor Scholz, SPD, has been in charge of the foreign ministry in Germany for the last decade. So there is actually continuity, which perhaps will come into the chancellery now. The Green foreign minister is that we have not dealt with a Green foreign minister since 2005, and this is the new generation of Green. I think that is going to be a learning process. And with India, the German strategic partnership is actually green. Everything we are dealing with them is greens, whether it's metros, high-speed railway, solar rooftop panels, battery-operated boats, smart cities. The green agenda dominates India-German relations. We do not have the kind of strategic partnership that India enjoys with France, based on nuclear cooperation, space cooperation, and defense cooperation. So how much more green can you make the Indo-German relationship? Actually, you need to make it much more strategic. And in the coalition document, India is given a separate place, albeit small, but mainly in the context of the new German policy to the Indo-Pacific, in which India is a key player. And I think that is where we need to expand our relationship.
And how can that be pursued, if you could also throw some light on that?
Well, I believe that Germany should come into big infrastructure in India by delivering on the high-speed railway, which has been hanging fire for several years. This really needs to get ahead. Secondly, German business needs to take the lead of the Indo-German relationship like they did with China. At the moment, the Indo-German relationship is very government-to-government relationship. If in German industry can be enthused to work more with India, we could look at using the PLI to set up manufacturing hubs in India which would then use ASEAN and Africa as markets. So I think this is the way Germany needs to expand its strategic relationship with India. The China plus one approach for industry and the infrastructure investments into India.
And this can extend from large-scale manufacturing units, industries to smaller scale as well. We've been talking about how the German Mittelstand has been very effective and sort of importing that entire ecosystem here as well. But I'm not sure how much progress have we made on that front.
Well, when I was in Germany, we ran a very successful program called Make in India Mittelstand. And we brought in over €1 billion of Mittelstand investment. So I think the Mittelstand is coming in, but at their own pace. But the problem with Mittelstand is they are almost always standalone companies. Whereas we need more groupings of companies, which can happen if several Mittelstand come together, or let us say you do a big project like a high-speed railway in which several suppliers are then married together. So Mittelstand can benefit by supplying to larger investment into infrastructure projects.
And in terms of the other challenge that has been talked about a lot, of course, is COVID. And do you see that proceeding in the manner that has been conceived even before he took over, Olaf Scholz, because he plans to bring in a law to make vaccination mandatory and very strict consequences for those who do not get themselves vaccinated?
Well, I think that perhaps is a justified approach, but they are going to face resistance because, the German people don't believe in government. They believe in civil society. So even if they believe vaccination is right, they don't want to be forced into being vaccinated. But I think Germany is suffering right now from an nth wave, which I think is quite inexplicable considering they had done a lot of vaccination and taken precautions earlier. Germany's economy is suffering too much to be allowed unvaccinated people in Germany to bring the economy down. I think that is the critical contradiction that Chancellor Scholz's government has to manage.
Yes, and at the same time, he has to manage the economy as well, and he's been doing that ever since COVID broke out, and even before that. But now, the kind of stimuluses that we've seen, there's a talk of tightening as well. So on that front, he will have to take some critical calls as well.
Yes, and if the German economy, doesn't do too well, you will not see too much German investment come into India. They will become more introverted. But actually, you may see Indian investment further rise in Germany. As it is over the last 5 years, there is more Indian investment in Germany than the other way around. So I think this key is something we need to solve. We don't need to stop Indian companies to go, but I think there has to be a nudging of German companies to look at India strategically. And that's the message that the German government needs to give to their companies.
And it's been talked about extensively that Olaf Scholz will have very big shoes to fill, those of Angela Merkel, and it's not as if she'll fade away into oblivion as far as public life is concerned. She'll in fact be very close to where the new chancellor will be, and she'll have a flat in the erstwhile East Berlin, and she is still very, very popular. So do you think there will be a bit of an overhang there as well?
I think Chancellor Merkel will be very hands-off. Both her own party and the coalition in power. Her party needs to elect a new leader and get back into shape because there are regional elections coming. I don't think she's going to interfere in governance at all. Yes, by and by, supposing things get difficult with Russia or with the Eastern allies in the European Union, perhaps the EU or Germany itself may quietly ask former Chancellor Merkel to actually intervene and perhaps go as a special envoy. But I don't think that's happening very soon. I'm not holding my breath. I think the climate chancellor needs a climate of peace and quiet at home right now.
Okay, let's hope that things begin well for Olaf Scholz, because that would really dictate the course not only for Germany but for so many other affairs that are unfolding constantly in the world. And we will keep watching this space hopefully with you in the coming days as well. Thank you so much for joining us for the moment, Vijay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Canada has become the latest nation to join the list of US, Australia as well as the UK to announce a boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympics early next year, citing its poor human rights record and authoritarian regime. But the International Olympic Committee's top boss Thomas Bach remains unperturbed, saying participation of athletes is what really matters, the rest is politics.
After the United States, Australia and Britain, Canada has now decided to boycott the Beijing Olympics. All these countries have decided to diplomatically boycott the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing over its human rights concerns.
For the past many months, we've been in conversation with partners and allies around the world on the issue of the Beijing Olympic and Paralympic Games. As a country, indeed, as many partners around the world, we are extremely concerned by the repeated human rights violations by the Chinese government. That is why we are announcing today that we will not be sending any diplomatic representation to the Beijing Olympic or Paralympic Games this winter. Our athletes have been training for years and are looking forward to compete at the highest level against athletes from around the world, and they will continue to have all of our fullest support as they show the extraordinary success that Canada has at Winter Olympic Games.
The announcement came after the White House, the Australian government and the UK governments had confirmed diplomatic boycotts.
I don't think the decision by Canada or by many other countries to choose to not send diplomatic representation to the Beijing Olympics and Paralympics is going to come as a surprise to China. We have been very clear over the past many years of our deep concerns around human rights violations, and this is a continuation of us expressing our deep concerns for human rights violations.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson also announced the boycott earlier.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear from what I said earlier on that the government has no hesitation in raising these issues with China, as I did with President Xi the last time I talked to him, and there will be effectively a diplomatic boycott of the of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. No ministers are expected to attend. Well, I think the House and no officials, Mr. Speaker, but what I can tell the House is that I do not think that sporting boycotts are sensible, and that remains the policy of the government. As I've said before, we do not support sporting boycotts, but there are no plans for ministers, certainly no plans for ministers to attend the Winter Olympics.
The International Olympic Committee said on Wednesday it welcomed government support for their national Olympic teams for the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics, despite some countries announcing a diplomatic boycott over China's human rights record.
The integrity of the games are about the integrity of the sports competitions, and therefore, we have our full focus, on the athletes. The games are about and for the athletes, and therefore you will hear the same comment from us for every political decision from any government. We have been concerned with the athletes. We welcome that they can participate, that they are supported by their national governments, and the rest is politics, and our political neutrality, the principle is applied.
It all started after the United States announced on Monday its diplomatic boycott over what Washington termed China's genocide of Uyghur minorities in the Xinjiang region and other human rights abuses. With Bureau Inputs, World Today Desk, DD India.
Now, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been telling the British people to mask up, get vaccinated and follow all kinds of restrictions to keep themselves safe ever since the COVID pandemic broke out. But the surfacing of the December 2020 video, which showed one of his advisors joking about a party at 10 Downing Street when such get-togethers were locked down, has raised a storm. The advisor has now resigned, but is that going to have the effect of the storm clouds passing? Watch this report.
Allegra Stratton, an advisor to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, resigned Wednesday following backlash over a video This video recently surfaced from December 2020. The video shows her laughing and joking about a party in Downing Street during the Christmas COVID-19 lockdown last year, when such festivities were banned.
The British people have made immense sacrifices in the ongoing battle against COVID-19. I now fear that my comments in the leaked video of the 20th of December last year have become a distraction in that fight.
In the video, Stratton was shown at a rehearsal for a daily briefing, laughing and joking about a reported gathering at a time when tens of thousands of people across Britain were banned from meeting family and friends to celebrate Christmas, or even from bidding farewell to dying relatives.
My remarks seemed to make light of the rules that people were doing everything to obey. That was never my intention. I will regret those remarks for the rest of my days, and I offer my profound apologies to all of you at home for them. Working in government is an immense privilege. I tried to do right by you all, to behave with civility and decency, and act to the high standards you expect of number 10. Rightly expect of number 10. I understand the anger and frustration that people feel. To all of you who lost loved ones, who endured intolerable loneliness, and who struggled with your businesses, I am truly sorry, and this afternoon I am offering my resignation to the Prime Minister. Thanks for your time.
Allegra Stratton, who was most recently Johnson's COP26 spokeswoman, was his press secretary at the time. The video was recorded in December 2020, addressing the weekly Prime Minister's questions session at the House of Commons. Johnson started off with an apology and announced an internal inquiry by his cabinet secretary to establish the full facts around the leaked video. He, however, maintained that no party actually took place that would have been in breach of the lockdown rules at the time. With Bureau Inputs, World Today Desk, DD India.
Now, the US President, that's Joe Biden, is hosting representatives from more than 100 countries for a democracy summit. The event is taking place through video conferencing mode due to the coronavirus pandemic. Let's just understand what this is all about, and let's turn to this wall right behind me. Well, it's called the Summit for Democracy. That's what it's all about. It's completely focused on democracy and renewing it, reviving it, putting democracy center stage is what I have called it. The summit is being hosted, like I said, by US President Joe Biden over Thursday and Friday. Furthermore, leaders from over 100 nations are attending virtually, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Also, invitations were sent to 111 countries, with representatives of civil society, philanthropy and private sector also called in. The summit convenes global leaders, government, civil society as well as the private sector. Now, it's expected to set forth affirmative agenda for democratic renewal. The summit is also expected to collectively tackle greatest threats being faced by democracies worldwide today. Furthermore, the summit is to serve as a platform for announcements of new commitments, reforms and initiatives as well. Now, these announcements of reforms and commitments are expected along the lines of the summit's three themes. Now, what are these three themes? Well, theme 1, strengthening democracy and defending against authoritarianism. Theme 2, fighting corruption. And theme 3, promoting respect for human rights. The White House has said about the summit that it will also give participants a platform to represent diverse democratic experiences. The US government is expected to announce initiatives for free and independent media, corruption-free and fair elections, and also an initiative could be expected on the lines of harnessing technology for democratic renewal. China and Russia have reportedly been excluded from the summit. Other significant misses include NATO members or partners like Hungary and Turkey. Notable Asian misses are Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam, and Pakistan was invited but declined to attend, thanking the US for the invitation. So this is what is going to be unfolding in a very short span of time. It's going to start this Summit for Democracy, and we'll be taking an update on this as well as we go along. Now, on Ukraine, US President Joe Biden has said on Wednesday putting American troops on the ground in Ukraine to deter a potential Russian invasion was not on the table, and he hoped to announce a meeting with Russia and other NATO countries by Friday. Speaking to reporters as he left the White House, Biden said he had made it clear to Russian President Vladimir Putin during his nearly 2-hour virtual meeting on Tuesday that there would be economic consequences like none before if Russia invades Ukraine, and he is confident Putin got the message.
We have a moral obligation and a legal obligation to our NATO allies. If they were to attack under Article 5, it's a sacred obligation. That obligation does not extend to NATO, to Ukraine, but it would depend upon what the rest of the NATO countries were willing to do as well. But the idea the United States is going to unilaterally use force to confront Russia invading Ukraine is not in the cards right now. But what will happen is there will be severe consequences that will have.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday welcomed U.S. President Joe Biden's personal role in trying to attain peace in eastern Ukraine. In his first comments after Biden held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin a day earlier, speaking at a news conference, Zelensky also hoped that Ukraine and Russia could agree to a new ceasefire and prisoner exchanges when their representatives hold talks on the conflict in Ukraine's Donbas region. Biden and Putin held talks on a video call on Tuesday after Ukraine and its NATO allies accused Russia of massing tens of thousands of troops near Ukraine's borders in preparation for a possible large-scale military offensive.
I believe that Ukraine's victory is that the United States have always supported Ukraine, our sovereignty and our independence. We had the support of the two parties, but the most important thing that we see now is that there is a personal real reaction and personal role of President Biden in resolving this conflict, the war in the east of our state. I believe it is the most important thing.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that Russia would send proposals to Washington within a week to follow up his talks with U.S. President Joe Biden on Ukraine. Putin told reporters the talks had been open and constructive, and the main thing was that there was a possibility to continue the dialogue. But he called suggestions that Russia was planning to attack Ukraine provocative. Putin and Biden spoke on Tuesday to set out their opposing positions on Ukraine, which says it is bracing for a possible invasion by tens of thousands of Russian troops close to its border. Biden warned Putin that the West would impose strong economic and other measures on Moscow if it invaded, while Putin demanded guarantees that NATO would not expand eastwards.
It is a provocative question. Russia follows a peaceful foreign policy, but it has the right to ensure its safety, as I said before, in mid-term and long-run prospects. And we discuss it with our partners, with all of our partners, including my partner in conversation, the United States President, Mr. Biden. We cannot but be concerned by the prospect of Ukraine joining NATO because it will lead, without a doubt, to the deployment of troops, military bases, and threatening us with weapons there.
Russia's Ministry of Defense published a video on Wednesday depicting French warplanes in air supposedly above the Black Sea's international waters. The ministry said that jets were heading towards the Russian border, and several Russian military jets, that is Su-27s, escorted them until they turned around. France's Armed Forces Ministry said earlier on Wednesday that a Russian jet escorted French warplanes that were carrying out a NATO observation mission in international airspace over the Black Sea. Citing the Russian Defense Ministry, RIA news agency earlier said Russian military aircraft scrambled to escort French Rafale and Mirage fighter jets flying over the Black Sea. The interaction is not uncommon, with similar incidents previously happening, but has come amid tensions between the West and Russia in the region. Well, governments need to reassess national responses to COVID-19 now and speed up vaccination programs to tackle Omicron, though it is too early to say how well existing shots will protect against a new variant, according to the World Health Organization. According to WHO's Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the variant's global spread suggests it could have a major impact on the COVID-19 pandemic, and the time to contain it is now, before more Omicron patients are hospitalized. The WHO also said it would publish a review of its stance on booster doses within days, but that with vaccination rates still worryingly low in much of the developing world, administering primary doses rather than boosters remains its top priority.
We still need answers to some crucial questions we were not
defenseless against Omicron or Delta. The steps countries take today and in the coming days and weeks will determine how Omicron unfolds. If countries wait until their hospitals start to fill up, it's too late. Don't wait. Act now. We're running out of ways to say this, but we will keep saying it.
Pfizer and BioNTech have said a booster jab of their coronavirus vaccine promises to be an effective defense against the new Omicron variant. 3 doses provide a similar level of antibodies against Omicron to that of 2 doses against other variants, the company said after a small study. The World Health Organization earlier said vaccines should still work against severe Omicron cases. Researchers across the world are piecing together data about Omicron. It's the most heavily mutated version of the coronavirus found so far. In a statement on Wednesday, Pfizer Chief Executive Albert Bourla said protection against the variant would be improved with a 3rd dose of the jab. However, Pfizer and BioNTech noted that the results are preliminary and said they would continue to collect data and evaluate real-world effectiveness. And in news further coming in from the U.S. on the COVID battlefront, the Democratic-controlled U.S. Senate on Wednesday approved a Republican measure that would overturn President Joe Biden's COVID-19 vaccine or test mandate for private businesses, with 2 Democrats joining Republicans to back the initiatives. The 52-48 vote sends the legislation to the Democratic-led House of Representatives, where it faces strong headwinds, while Biden has threatened to veto it. The legislation would overturn administration rules ordering businesses with 100 workers or more to require vaccinations or coronavirus testing for millions of employees. The initiative underscores the intense political opposition facing administration efforts to combat COVID-19 at a time when health officials are trying to contain the highly contagious Omicron variant. Brazil's authorities will not implement a COVID passport as proof of vaccination, a decision already aggravating both Brazilian people and experts. Infectious disease specialist Roberto Madronio said it was incredible the government refused to enact a measure that keeps travelers and residents safe. Madronio added that those without COVID-19 vaccines to avoid visiting other countries as they pose a risk of infection for themselves and others. Brazilian citizens echoed the sentiment, saying the government's position was a disaster and the accumulation of irresponsibility. As of Wednesday, Omicron variant of the coronavirus, the latest worldwide threat that the pandemic poses, has been detected in the Americas in Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Mexico and the United States, according to the Pan American Health Organization. And further, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said on Wednesday he was starting in fact a so-called Plan B for England, including guidance for people to work from home to slow the spread of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. From this Friday, the legal requirement to wear a face mask will be extended to most public indoor venues, including theatres and cinemas. Also, a COVID pass will be mandatory to access nightclubs and places with large crowds. As the government set out Plan B, businesses will be given a week's notice on the NHS COVID pass requirements, so the new rules will come into force in a week's time. Outlining the new guideline, Johnson also introduced daily tests for contacts instead of isolation. Britain has recorded more than 145,000 COVID-19 deaths during the pandemic. A fast start to the vaccine program has since helped in containing the impact, and in recent months cases have been held steady at around 43,000 daily infections and 135 deaths after Johnson lifted most restrictions in England. Although the emergency of the Omicron variant has put governments on edge around the world. Now, let's also get you some more updates from around the world in News at a Glance.
NASA on December 9 set out to explore some of the universe's deepest mysteries when it launched its Imaging X-ray Polarimetry Explorer, or IXPE, on SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket. IXPE is going to explore some of the most extreme and mysterious objects in the universe, including black holes and pulsars and the X-rays they emit, according to NASA. IXPE is a space observatory that carries 3 state-of-the-art space telescopes with special polarization-sensitive detectors.
The Democratic-controlled U.S. Senate on Wednesday approved a Republican measure that would overturn President Joe Biden's COVID-19 vaccine or test mandate for private businesses, with 2 Democrats joining Republicans to back the initiative. The 50-48 vote sends the legislation to the Democratic-led House of Representatives, where it faces strong headwinds, while Biden has threatened to veto it. The legislation would overturn administration rules ordering businesses with 100 workers or more to require vaccinations or coronavirus testing for millions of employees. The measure was not subject to Senate rules that require 60 of its 100 members to agree on most legislation, meaning it could pass with just a 51-vote simple majority. 2 Senate Democrats, Joe Manchin of West Virginia and John Tester of Montana, joined 50 Republicans in voting for the bill. The head of Instagram said on Wednesday he aims to launch next year a version of the app with a chronological feed rather than one ranked algorithmically in his first appearance before Congress, where he was grilled about children's safety online. Instagram's Adam Mosseri was the latest tech executive pressed by lawmakers to provide more transparency into their platform's algorithms and the impact of the content they curate and recommend for users. Instagram and its parent company Meta Platforms Incorporation, formerly Facebook, have come under intense scrutiny over the potential impact of their services on the mental health, body image and safety of young users, including after whistleblower Frances Haugen leaked internal documents about the company's approach to younger users. With Nobel ceremonies in Stockholm cancelled due to the pandemic for the 2nd year in a row, the medicine and economics laureates received their prizes during a ceremony in Southern California on Wednesday. The Nobel Prize for Medicine was handed out to American scientist David Julius and Artem Pathaputian for the discovery of receptors in the skin that sense temperature and touch and could pave the way for new painkillers. The Nobel Prize for Economics went to economists David Card, Guido Imbens for pioneering natural experiments to show real-world economic impacts in areas from minimum wage increases in the US fast food sector to migration from Castro-era Cuba. A powerful storm system battered the United Kingdom, Ireland and parts of Spain with strong winds that knocked out power to thousands and dumped heavy rain and snow in some areas. Storm Bara, is named by meteorological agencies in Europe, underwent bombogenesis as in an intensified storm as it closed in on the Irish coastline. It triggered flooding and power outages that forced schools to close, and several school districts will remain closed into Wednesday. Storm Bara brought heavy snowfall, showers and storms in northern Spain on Wednesday, with authorities urging drivers to be cautious as they return home after a long holiday weekend. TV footage showed heavy snowfall in the Pyrenees Mountains in the region of Aragon, where road signs warned of avalanche risks. Spain's weather agency, AMET, said it didn't expect the weather to settle until the weekend. World Today Desk, DD India.
And let's now get you some sports updates. Well, Travis Head smashed 100 to put Australia on top as Australia ended day 2 of the ongoing first Ashes test against England at a score of 343 for 7 down. Australia gets a lead of 196 runs at the Gabba in Brisbane. Head's century came after Ollie Robinson led England's fight back with 3 wickets to his name earlier in the day. David Warner posted a knock of 94 to help his side overhaul England's first innings total in the post-lunch session after Australia lost their first wicket early in the day. Marnus Labuschagne also scored a half-century and was dismissed for 74 in the day's second session after he combined with Warner to put Australia on top. After bundling out England for 147, Australia got off to a bad start as opener Marcus Harris failed to leave a mark with the bat and he was sent back to the pavilion in the 6th over by Robinson. Labuschagne then joined Warner in the middle and the duo kept on ticking the scoreboard along, ensuring that the hosts enter the second session of the day with 9 wickets in hand. Warner also got a reprieve in the first over bowled by Ben Stokes as he was clean bowled off a no ball and the left-handed batter survived. Now let's talk about football, with Barcelona signed off on their worst Champions League campaign in 2 decades on Wednesday, as another comprehensive defeat at the hands of Bayern Munich sealed elimination at the group stage. The Catalans went into their final game battling Benfica for the second qualifying spot in Group E and knowing they might well need to chase a result in the Allianz Arena. But Bayern barely broke sweat in taking apart Xavi's men, while the Portuguese side took the necessary 3 points to send them to the last 16 as runners-up behind Bayern.
Pues que esto debe ser un punto de inflexión.
This has to be an inflection point. A new era for Barcelona must start. We need to rebel against this situation. Evidently, we cannot be satisfied because Barcelona doesn't deserve to be where it currently is. To the fans, we say we will work hard because I feel this club, I love this club. We will work to the limit. We will even leave our skins to recover Barca to a place where it deserves to be, which is not in the Europa League. But that is our reality. We need to face it. It is a harsh truth, but it is what it is. We need to face it. There is no other way but to face it and rise up. We must use this as an inflection point to improve.
Now, a much-changed Manchester United side produced a lackluster display to draw 1-1 against Young Boys in the final Champions League Group F match at Old Trafford on Wednesday. With United guaranteed top spot in the group, new manager Ralf Rangnick made 11 changes from his first match in charge on Sunday, with Amad Diallo and Anthony Elanga making their Champions League debuts for the club. Young Boys' new victory would give them a chance of finishing third in the group and qualifying for the Europa League. But it was United who started brighter and took the lead in superb fashion on 9 minutes through Mason Greenwood as he caught Luke Shaw's cross with a bicycle kick. However, United missed a host of chances to double their lead and were made to pay 3 minutes before half-time as Fabian Rieder leapt onto Donny van de Beek's poor pass to hit a stunning effort past goalkeeper Dean Henderson from the edge of the box. Juventus progressed to the Champions League knockout stages as group winners after their comfortable 1-0 victory over Malmo on Wednesday, coupled with Chelsea's draw at Zenit St. Petersburg. A much-changed Juventus, already assured of their place in the knockout stages, raced into an 18th minute lead when Moise Kean headed his first Champions League goal from an inch-perfect Federico Bernardeschi's cross. With Malmo guaranteed to finish bottom of the group, the Swedes had little incentive to push for a leveller, and Juve closed out the win without even being seriously troubled. The Italian side's fifth win from 6 group games looked to be in vain as England's Chelsea led 3-2 in Russia in stoppage time, but a last-gasp Zenit equaliser meant Juve finished 2 points clear at the top of the group. And Champions League holders Chelsea blew the chance to top their group as they were held to a 3-3 draw against Zenit St. Petersburg at the Gazprom Arena on Wednesday. The result sees Thomas Tuchel's side finish second in the group, 2 points behind group winners Juventus, who Sweden's Malmo won in the other game. Chelsea were dominant early on, taking a lead after just 90 seconds when Timo Werner tapped the ball in from a yard out following a Ross Barkley corner. But Zenit fought their way back into the game with a spell of pressure on the European champions, ending in 2 goals in quick succession. Claudinho took advantage of being unmarked on the post to nod in an equaliser on 38 minutes before Sada Azmoun added a second just 3 minutes later following a Malcolm through ball that put him one-on-one with Kepa Arrizabalaga. Tuchel's side improved after the break, drawing the game level once again on 62 minutes after Lukaku jumped on a Werner cross to score his first Chelsea goal since the last time he played Zenit in September. Now about cricket, well, the BCCI announced India's squad for the upcoming tour to South Africa. As expected, Virat Kohli will lead the side while Rohit Sharma has been named as the vice-captain for the 3-match test series on the 26th of December. More in this report.
The selection of the Indian Test team for the South Africa tour was in fact the real test for the selectors, as it was one tough task. The task of leading the 18-member Indian team for the Test series was handed over to Virat Kohli, while Rohit Sharma was assigned the vice-captaincy for the Test, taking the role away from Ajinkya Rahane. This was however good for Rahane as the team management maintained their faith in him and he was given a place in the team for the South Africa tour. Ravindra Jadeja, Shubman Gill, Akshar Patel and Rahul Chahar have not been included in the team as they are currently injured and recovering. The 18-member Indian contingent for the South Africa tour is as follows: Virat Kohli captain, Rohit Sharma vice-captain, KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane, Shreyas Iyer, Hanuma Vihari, Rishabh Pant, Vridhiman Saha, R. Ashwin, Jayant Yadav, Ishant Sharma, Mohammad Shami, Umesh Yadav, Jasprit Bumrah, Shardul Thakur and Mohammad Siraj. Along with this, the BCCI has also replaced the captain for the ODIs. Rohit Sharma has now been handed over captaincy for the T20 as well as the ODI team. Under Rohit's captaincy, India had clean sweep the T20 series, beating New Zealand 3-0. Obviously, this flurry of change had begun from the time Virat stepped down as the captain of the T20, and it was only time before it received a formal stamp of approval, which it has now. Sports Desk, DD India.
Let's now get your updates from a more intimate world around us, with stories that are beyond headlines.
Christmas is the season of light, a sentiment that Germany-based Leon Skippers takes very seriously each year. For 20 years, he has been decorating his house and garden in malls with lakhs of lights, creating ice landscapes and Christmas decorations in all shapes and colors. This year, COVID restrictions led him to cut down on the number of lights, but continuing the tradition that his father started 20 years ago, Skippers has put on a display of 40,000 lights. London has been lit up as the Christmas season approached, with its landmarks wreathed in sparkling decorations. In Trafalgar Square, the Christmas trees sent to the UK by Norway as an annual gift following British support for Norway during World War II takes centre stage next to a nativity scene. London's shopping districts celebrate with themes including illuminated angels and butterflies, while more modern lights are seen outside Wembley Stadium and on London's cultural hub, the South Bank. The German capital is awash with lights and Christmas trees as people get into the Yuletide spirit. At Berlin's landmark, the Brandenburg Gate, a huge Christmas tree quietly lights up the Pariser Platz, while over on Alexanderplatz, revelers can ride a ferry wheel, ice skate or drink mulled wine. The Kurfürstendamm, Berlin's most famous shopping stretch, has Christmas trees set up and hosts a tree donated by a family who grew it from a sapling in their garden. A huge lit snowman towers over shoppers going into the KaDeWe. Two tiaras believed to have belonged to French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte's first wife Josephine sold for more than $760,000 at an auction on Tuesday. Set with engraved gemstones, the early 19th century pieces are part of matching jewelry sets and were offered as part of auction house Sotheby's Treasures sale. One tiara in gold and enamel and set with 25 carnelian integros sold for £450,600. The second gold and enamel tiara, featuring 5 head cameos of Zeus, Dionysus, Medusa, Pan and Gaia of ancient Greek mythology, sold for £126,000. A mummy found in Peru and thought to be between 800 and 1200 years old is now on display at San Marcos University in Lima. In November, Peruvian archaeologists disclosed the finding of human remains in an underground tomb on the outskirts of Lima, surrounded by pots, ceramics, gourds containing vegetable remains and stone tools. The mummy was in a fetal position and tied with ropes, which was probably a local burial rite. Ancient artifacts looted and smuggled out of Iraq after the US invasion in 2003 were put on display in Baghdad on Tuesday. Among the artifacts returned by the United States was a 3,500-year-old clay tablet bearing part of the Epic of Gilgamesh, the ancient Sumerian tale believed to be one of the world's first pieces of literature. The tablet, displayed at the Iraqi Foreign Ministry's headquarters, was handed to the Iraqi embassy in Washington by the city's Museum of the Bible. 1 million turtles were released into a river in the Amazon border between Bolivia and Brazil in an attempt to preserve the species. Amazon river turtles have been losing the battle against climate change and human activity that threatens their ecosystem, directly affecting their survival. Since 2007, biologists and volunteers on the bank of the Itanes River in Bolivia and Guapo on the Brazilian side have formed a bi-national project to protect the species. Their job mainly consists of the removal of turtle nests hatching in the sand, which are in danger of drowning if they do not act quickly. World Today Desk, DD India.
And it's time now to turn the pages of history and to find out what made the headlines on this very day world over.
It was on this day in the year 1608 when renowned English poet John Milton was born in Bread Street in London. He is well known for his poem Paradise Lost. In the year 1961, on this day, Tanganyika became independent within the Commonwealth with Julius Nyerere as Prime Minister. The following year, it became a republic. In the year 1996, on the very same day, the United Nations authorized the start of a long-delayed oil-for-food deal with Iraq, enabling Baghdad to make a limited return to the world oil market for the first time since 1990 invasion of Kuwait. It was on this day in the year 2002, United Airlines filed for bankruptcy, the largest such case ever in the global airline industry, after high costs left the world's #2 carrier with too much debt and very little cash. In the year 2016, on this day, South Korean President Park Geun-hye was impeached by the National Assembly amid allegations of corruption. She left office the following year after the country's constitutional court upheld the parliamentary decision. World Today Desk, DD India.
And that's all we have for the moment in this edition of World Today, but all the latest will continue right here on DD India. For news from the nation and the world, stay tuned.